All right. All right. We're live. We are live. I haven't been on here in a while, but I've actually been working on a couple of things since I've been away. As you can see, it's no longer the Murph and E Dub show. Now, me and E Dubs have been doing the Murph and E Dub show for a long time. We've been doing it probably for, I don't know, roughly about 3 years. But recently, I guess he said, it got to be a little too much for him. I want to try to get something done every Sunday. Eric's a very busy guy, but so the fact that he called me up and he told me he just doesn't feel it anymore. He doesn't, he just doesn't feel like doing the show anymore, which is good. So Murph and E Dub show is no more. So we're gonna have to try and come up with something else, and that's what we're here doing today. So what that means for you guys out there that either subscribe or follow my channel is you're gonna get a lot of me. E Dubs might bounce in here every once in a while. I'm gonna have definitely have some guests. I know I've had the couple of Aiden's friends on here and there, and they enjoy doing the sports stuff with me. I also did a political type of show with them, and they seem to do pretty well with that also. But trying to come up with something that could kind of intertwine my two worlds. Now, as you guys know, I love to talk sports, and also I love to just talk in general. So the Keep Talking 365 aspect of my channel is going to continue to grow and grow and grow because I do love talking. But I'm trying to come up with maybe like a good name for a new podcast or a good name for a show that will kind of describe like where I'm coming from. So my guess is I'm trying to come up with something. The best thing I could do at the moment is called the Mostly Sports Talk Show. I could get up here and sit here and give you guys all my views on sports. I could tell you who I think is going to win the Super Bowl. I could tell you who I think is going to win the World Series. And I could tell you my take on how lazy I think basketball players are these days. But I could also give you stories on why I feel that way. I could also give you personal accounts. I could also give you my opinion on stuff. And my opinion sometimes tends to trickle into other things. So, and I think that was kind of the tipping point maybe with Eric. I know Eric likes to take, strictly sports. And I love talking sports with Eric. And I sometimes go off the rail a little bit and I start talking about other things. And I know he doesn't want to get too controversial about certain things, but fact of the matter is, he called me up a couple weeks ago, and I think I posted a video for our show, the Murphy and Dub Show. It was a 50 Cent song, and maybe that was the icing on the cake for him because I understand that he works in an office atmosphere, and maybe some of the colorful language maybe was a little too much for the people in his office. But I don't know. But I do get it. I do understand. And if that's the case, and he just wanted to separate himself from me, that's fine. But I am going to miss our banter back and forth with the Mets and the Yankees because, as you know, I do love E Dubs. Me and E Dubs are friends. And but it seems to me that we kind of have different views on stuff, and I guess we live two completely different lives. So, like I said, E Dubs will be back. Hopefully I'll get him back for a sports show. But what I did learn about doing the Murph and E Dub show is we went through periods where a lot of people would be listening to us and a lot of people would be watching us, and then we wouldn't get as many views or as many clicks as we wanted to. So, what that entails when doing a podcast is continuity. Now, these podcasts would just pop up on random days. They would just pop up on maybe a Sunday, or maybe I would promote a show saying coming on Sunday, 8 a.m. But I woke up a little too early and I was out doing something and I forgot, or maybe I had to go do something on a Saturday night, which I didn't know I had plans because my wife is the one that keeps the plans with us. But I got to start and do it with some continuity. Now, continuity meaning I got to give you a set date and a set time, and that's also going to help with my crazy brain. If you've been paying attention to in the past, and some of the other podcasts on my channel is blatant honesty about how my brain works, and how sometimes I could be a little hard to deal with, or I could be a little opinionated, or But at the end of the day, that's really all it is just opinions. But I like to talk sports, and a lot of the sports sometimes trickles into my opinions on stuff. I have a very vocal opinion on politics, and I love a good debate. I explained to a bunch of people a couple of weeks ago that I've actually lost friendships in this whole political thing that's going on with Trump and was Kamala Harris and Biden and the whole world, what's going on right now. So there are times when I'm going to jump in and give you guys my political views, but I've actually lost friendships because of it. And that really, to me, is not a cool thing for you to be doing in your life. If you're contemplating whether you should be friends with somebody, or if you're contemplating whether you should call your brother, sister, mother, father, whoever it may be back just because that person voted for Donald Trump, or because that person voted for something that maybe he doesn't stand for, she doesn't stand for. I actually got told that how dare I vote against somebody else's morals or opinions. I voted for my morals and opinions. I'm sympathetic to a lot of people's plights out there, but your plight wasn't that high on my voting tablet because it really didn't affect me too much. So, like I said before, I've lost friendships, and it's okay. It's okay. But the thing that this channel does for me is it's like therapy. When I say therapy, I'm a very outspoken person. I like to, I guess you could say, like I wear my heart on my sleeve. I have a lot of opinions. And I know I keep using the word opinion because at the end of the day, whether it's politics or whether it's, whatever you're talking about, everybody has an opinion that's skewed a certain way on which media they watch, on what outlets, what social media platforms they follow, what TV shows they watch, what news outlets they watch. But at the end of the day, people have their own opinions and people have stuff in their lives that affect them. So you really have to look at kind of stuff in a selfish way and kind of put that stuff aside when dealing with politics. They say religion is the same way too, but that's another thing that doesn't matter to me. Religion doesn't matter to me. Color doesn't matter to me. Political standing doesn't matter to me. There's people in this world that are assholes, and there's people in this world that are cool people. There's people in this world that like me, and there's people in this world that don't like me. And at the end of the day, that really doesn't bother me. So the point I'm trying to make right now about this is I'm going to bring you guys a sports show. That's going to be called the Mostly Sports Talk Show. Now, the Mostly Sports Talk Show is going to give you all sorts of stuff on the Mets, the Yankees, the Jets, the rest of the NFL, the rest of the major leagues, NBA. I'm going to be doing some stuff maybe when World Cup soccer comes around. I'm going to try and learn some hockey. WWE wrestling is becoming very, very popular again. I was a big fan back in the 90s. My son and a couple of his buddies, they're huge fans of the WWE right now and starting to gain a little traction, being that it's on Netflix and it's all over the world now. So I'm going to probably have them on talking about the WWE. I still want to do interviews. Now, interviews are something that where I think I excel at. I like to talk to people. I ask a lot of questions. I talk to people sometimes when I don't know about a topic, they say like a 5-year-old, because I ask a lot of questions. If I don't know something about you, or I don't know something about your profession or a hobby that you have, I'm going to ask a lot of questions. So I'd like to start getting back into interviews. I have a lot of opinions on psychedelic drugs. I have a lot of opinions on religion. So sometimes the mostly sports talk show might trickle into some kind of opinion that I have on something, or it might not even be sports that day. I might just give you like the score of the Met game and score of the Yankee game the night before and just go on a tangent about something that I want to talk about that day. But again, that's why it's called Keep Talking 365, and that's why it's called the Mostly Sports Talk Show. Now, today, to start it off, it's going to be mostly not sports because, as what I was talking about before, now, people's views in life, ending friendships, um, not talking to people because they have a certain view, not talking to your cousin, not talking to your friend, not talking to your brother, sister, whatever it may be. If you had a relationship with these people pre knowing something about how they vote or knowing something about how they feel about a certain thing, and you find this out about somebody, that's the way they feel. And talking about it with somebody and trying to make them feel differently about it is just going to put a divide between your friendship. So you should have the friendships and you should have the family members that could sit there and can talk to you about why you feel a certain way. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe learn something about each other. But something happened over the weekend. Not even over the weekend. Something happened on Monday morning. Okay. Now, we all know that you wake up in the morning and you scroll through your phone and you look to see what happened the night before. You want to look at the score of the game. You want to check the news blogs. You want to check, I don't know, whatever it may be. It's just kind of like, common knowledge. Everybody wakes up. First thing they do, they turn the news on or they check out their phones. Now, where I'm going with this is the people in your life that you hold dear to you, always hold them dear. Always. I woke up on Monday morning and tragedy struck. Now, when I say tragedy struck, tragedy struck in the form of a earthquake in Bangkok. Now, I have a very, very dear. I even choose. I don't know. Even calling him friend is that's just putting it lightly. The only thing separating me and this person is just blood from actually being brothers. He's the godfather of one of my sons. Um, he is probably one of the most unique people I've ever met in my life. He's probably one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, and one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. And I'm happy enough to have known him for the entirety of his life, from baby all the way up till now. As you guys know, I grew up in Queens, and the Hamels were our neighbors growing up. And we had a friendship with my parents had a friendship with Susie and Andrew, who were this young man's parents. And this baby came home a while ago, and I never had a brother. My parents were never lucky enough for. Listen, I have three wonderful sisters. You know, all wonderful in their own way. One most wonderful, and she knows who I'm talking about. Um, the other two, I have a relationship with my sister Laura. We have our ins and outs, we have our arguments, we have our fights, and we have our opinions on how we live each other's lives. But at the end of the day, she's my sister. I also have another sister who I don't talk to anymore, unfortunately. Since the passing of my dad, she has chosen to disconnect herself from our lives completely, which I think is a little cowardice, maybe, or which is a little, I don't even know what the right word is to use because I'm kind of blindsided by why it happened. I have my suspicions of why it happened, but I really want to just hear it from her first. But I'm kind of going off on a tangent now because the point I'm trying to make about this is this one particular person in Bangkok lives there, has a daughter, and I'm going to mention his name. His name is AJ. Now, AJ is, if I had to say who's my best friend, who is the person that I confide in with everything that I wouldn't confide in with other people, a person that has been there for me in a lot of situations as I have for him, person I could call up on the phone at any time of day. And if I need to talk or if I needed to laugh, we talk about the Mets. Now, 90% of our text conversations are just silly conversations. Like we have a knack of just kind of talking to each other and going off on tangents. And I could say something absolutely out of the ordinary and it would just pick up like, just go with the conversation. And, if you guys from the outside listening, listen to some of our conversations, you would see that what the hell are they talking about? But I woke up Monday morning and I heard the 7.7 magnitude earthquake hit the city of Bangkok. A building collapsed and lots of people were hurt. It happens to be over 1,600. My heart dropped. Now, when you watch the news and you see tragedies around the world, they happen all the time. I'll give you my story about 9/11 in a couple of minutes. Train explosions in Spain, Oklahoma City, Columbine, numerous school shootings. Everybody in their mind, every time they hear something like that, instantaneously goes to, okay, do I know somebody there? Every time I hear a fireman is hurt in a fire or is killed in a fire, I listen keenly to where, because they never usually give the name. I have cousins that are firemen. Your brain automatically goes to, do I know anybody? Do I know anybody that lives there? Do I know anybody that could quite possibly be part of this tragedy? My heart sunk when I heard that Bangkok had a 7.7 magnitude earthquake. And I saw this at 5 o'clock in the morning and my heart dropped. And then all of a sudden, I took a breath and I said, he's here. Now, by saying that, without a doubt, does not take away from the tragedy itself, because it's a tragedy. 1,600 people lost their lives. 9/11, almost 4,000 people lost their lives. Numerous wars, people lost their lives. But this specific tragedy, for a quick second, almost affected me to a point where I lost one of my favorite people in the entire world and his beautiful daughter, Hannah. I thought for about 5 seconds, because when I saw the story, I thought that they were there. And my thought process was, "Oh my god, is he okay?" And then as I started to come through, as I started to wake up, I realized he's here. He's in Queens. He's with his mother, and we just haven't seen him yet. But again, it doesn't take away from the fact that this is a tragedy. Building collapsed, people lost their lives, and a lot of people out there are listening to this or thinking, I did know somebody there, and I feel terribly. But also, there's just been an overwhelming. You ever go from an extreme feeling from one to the other and realize how intense it is? For instance, going from the feeling of thinking that you're one of the most favorite people in the entire world, somebody that you love with all of your heart, could quite possibly be involved in a building collapse and you don't even know if they're dead or alive, to he got out of there. He was coming here anyway, and he landed in New York, but he's dealing with stuff. He knows people there. His daughter has friends. But from my perspective, my brother, my friend, and somebody that I love more than anything was okay. So the point I'm trying to make about relationships that you form with people is there are times when you're young and you go through your life and you have friendships and you have family members and you have relationships with people. But the older you get, those relationships seem to become few and far between sometimes. But when you have people in your life that you know are there and you are there for everything, you keep those people close to your heart. And AJ's here right now, and he's here with his daughter and his mother, Susie, over there in Queens. Hoping that maybe they'll be listening to this when I put it out as a podcast. But I just want you guys to know how important the three of you guys are to us. That's AJ, Hannah, and Susie. The three of you are so important to my family, my wife, my children, my mother, my father, my sisters. You guys have become throughout the life an extended portion of the Murphy family, that the only thing that separates us is blood. And when I thought for that quick second that AJ, you may not be here, I was distraught. I don't know what I would do if something had happened to you. Because loss, I've said this twice last year, because 2024 for loss for me was, I'd just say, kind of a little bit of a roller coaster. Um, May, I lost my one of my very dear friends, Ernie. We spoke about him. He just collapsed in a parking lot in Pennsylvania. Um, he was at a bowling tournament. Not going to go into the into the specifics of what happened, but all I know is I lost my one of my closest friends I've ever had in my life. Died at 44 years old, and I lost my dad this year. Now, the loss of my dad was a little different. My dad was 76 years old. My dad, for lack of a better term, didn't really take care of himself. He had his issues, but again, who am I to say whose issues are, how to deal with their issues? But I had first had a harder time with 44-year-old Ernie dying, trying to think to myself, what happened? Why would somebody die at 44? Why would, for all the people out there that believe in religion, why would God per se take someone that had so much stuff to do? I still can't wrap my head around it. But that initial shock of hearing that he was dead was a feeling that I don't know how to explain it, but it's definitely a feeling of just the whole your soul gets sucked out of you for a second that you can't believe. And then after that initial shock, then you got to deal with the fact that he's got kids, he's got a wife, he's got friends, he's got other people that love him. And a 44-year-old young man who had the world ahead of him, He had stuff that still teaches kids. He had, vacations to go with his wife. He had family stuff to do. He's gone at 44. My dad, on the other hand, like I said, didn't take care of himself too well. But that doesn't mean that that loss was any different than my friend. It's just how I dealt with it. Now, full disclosure, because I like to have full disclosure and full honesty on my podcast. Me and my dad had somewhat of I guess you would say tumultuous relationship, maybe. Or look, I loved my dad with all my heart. We had our issues, and we solved them. And look, the guy was in Vietnam. The guy was a New York City police officer. The guy grew up in the Bronx in the 50s. So I don't know what went on in his life, like pre having children. But almost a year after the fact of him being gone, I'm starting to think that a lot of stuff that I said to him before he died was kind of unfair, but I can't go back on anything I said. But I also felt it. And I also felt that I had to get that stuff out at that moment. So my dad dying was at the beginning it was tough. I mean maybe, but I knew it was gonna happen. When my friend Ernie died, I had no idea waking up that day that I was gonna get a phone call in Brooklyn while I'm watching my nephew Gaetano play baseball in Prospect Park, that I was gonna get that phone call and the reaction that I had. So relationships that you have with people, don't let silly things get in the way of telling somebody that you love them, or telling somebody that you care about them, or telling somebody that you need them, or asking somebody if you need you for something. Because as you get older, your circle per se, maybe you'll get a little smaller, but you do have people in your life that will go to bat for you. And they may not be that person that you see every day, may not be that person that you talk to every day. I have a friend out in California that I rarely talk to. I talk to him when I'm having a rough day. He'll call me if he's having something rough going on. We should pick the phone up and talk to each other more, but it is a type of friendship that I'll pick the phone up or text him. It's like we saw each other yesterday. So that's a friend too. But going back to my relationship with my dad for a second, is like I'm just starting to kind of really wrap my own head around what happened, and wrap my own head around the fact that I said some pretty crazy stuff like right before he died. And that was me grieving. That was me angry. I could have went about it a different way, but that's just the way I went about it. And I can't go back and take back what I said, but I can reflect on what I said and use it as a learning tool to maybe you should give people a shot sometimes in life. I mean, maybe it's not as bad as you thought it was, or maybe because of bad things that did happen, or bad situations that did happen, maybe you did learn, or maybe there was some good advice there in the fog. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't all bad. A lot of it was good. We just happened to grow up in a time, we grew up in Queens in the 70s and the 80s. My dad was a New York City cop. My mother was a nurse. That was just the life they had there. My dad liked to hang out after work. My mom worked hard. When they came home, they liked to hang out, party. So I grew up in an environment with a lot of alcohol, where I just thought that was the way to be. I just thought that was okay. So, and as I get older, and as you have your own children, you realize that there's some things that you don't want your children to see you do, or you don't, there's certain things that you don't want to perceive your kids to be. Because I had this vision of my dad when I was a young kid, of he was like a god to me. I would go to Brooklyn, go pick up his paycheck, and I'd hang out at the bar with him, and I'd play pool, and there'd be people kissing him on the cheek and telling him that they love him. And, but then I still had to go home with them, and just, you deal with years and years when you have an alcoholic parent, and another parent that enabling alcoholic parent, let's per se. When you have two parents that are like that and you don't know any better, you just kind of think that's just the way it's supposed to be. But then when you have your own children and you look at your own children and you have that perspective of whatever I do in my life is a direct effect of what goes on in that guy's life. And you're going to make that decision to be the best father the best dad, the best parent, the best person possible because you have a young man right now looking up to you that he's going to watch your every single move. So, my upbringing, whether it be good times, bad times, a little bit of both, had friends, being that maybe that I was left to figure out some stuff on my own in life. Maybe I did disappoint my family a little bit with a couple of decisions that I made, but at the end of the day, I was kind of trying to figure stuff out on my own throughout my entire life. And the one thing I did figure out instantaneously is when you have children and you get the title of father or dad, there is nothing in the world that should stop you or hindering you from being the best you could be at that. What I mean is, men by nature are selfish. We're selfish with our time. We're selfish with a lot of things. If we don't have anybody else, to rely on, which I really didn't feel like through my life, I had a lot of people to rely on. A lot of people think that, you know, that maybe that's why I'm very cold in certain situations, or that's why maybe if I say stuff to people sometimes that I think is a joke and maybe it could be misconstrued as mean, but I don't have a mean bone in my body. I just say things for the joke. And in return, I hear stuff that maybe could be misconstrued as mean and just really doesn't bother me. Like I don't get reactionary towards words about me. Um, and maybe that's, I'm talking to therapists and stuff like that. Maybe that's just a staple of just always having to try to figure stuff out on my own and just always having myself to rely on or always having myself to talk to about decisions. But when somebody asks me about how it's like to be a dad or a father, oh boy, I could tell you. I could definitely tell you. There's a point in your life when you have to make a decision as a father. And I felt it. I mean, I know some people feel like maybe they have a calling to be a priest. They say they felt it. Or maybe they have a calling to do a certain job. They felt it. The moment I saw my wife Shannon give birth to our first child. Now, the feeling that I'm going to explain is for both of my children, but the first one is where you get the holy shit moment. The holy shit moment being all the mayhem is going on in the operating room. Well, the doctor's going back and forth, yelling, "Are you dilating centimeters? Honey, are you okay? No, I hate you." Yelling and screaming, cursing, "I fucking hate you." You, blah 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 blah. Everybody knows. Everybody's dad went through it. Everybody knows that in that room at that moment, you are the beating post for your wife, and whatever she says to you is not true. But you take it because you know that the end result of what's coming out of there, you don't know how you're going to feel when you see. You don't know. The wife has been holding that baby inside of them for 9 months. They have a connection, but you don't have that connection yet. You have the choice to look and choice to be in that room and say, what's coming next my way? I'm selfish with my time, but I have this guy coming out. Now, like I said to you before, this feeling that I'm going to explain to you is the feeling that I felt with both of my children, but it was more of a holy shit moment with my first child because it was my first. The moment I saw that little boy being born, I got a feeling that went from my toes to the top of my head. And it was kind of not even like it was a split second. And I looked down. I said, "This is not about me anymore. This is about me loving, caring for, guiding, and being the best possible role model, dad, father, and anything that these two young men need of me. I am going to be there." I did me. I did stuff for me. I had friends. I have friends. I have a life. I had this pre life before my wife and my kids. But now this is about them. Every move I make is going to be a predecessor to what they do, what they observe. Feeling of just tears just came out of my eyes of joy and tears of happiness. And knowing that I'm not selfish anymore. It's kind of like maybe I don't know if it's a religious experience, maybe, or if it's just an energy experience, but at that moment, men have to make that quick split decision that they're going to be a dad, they're going to be a father, and everything they do is for those two children, or those 4 children, or in my buddy's case, those 10 children. As a man, that is your job to raise your children. By that being said, I do a lot of stuff, a lot of comparisons with men in life. You could have a conversation with somebody. You could dislike another man. You could dislike another man, what he does, if he's, maybe he's a criminal, or maybe he's lazy at work, or maybe, you could do a lot of outside judging of people sometimes. But if that man is lazy at work, or that man does something terrible, not even terrible, like, maybe he's a liar, but if he goes home and he's a good father, that is kudos. That is something to me that in my eyes stands up the test of time, because you have a child and you know that everything you're about to do is give your life to that child and not even look back. We'll get our lives, me and my wife are going to get, my kids are going to be going soon. I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Me and my wife are going to be on our own. Maybe we'll get back. We may have grandchildren one day, but there's a time period there where the selfish portion of you never ever can have its rear its ugly head. You have to be on point every day, taking care of your 2 children. In my eyes, I have 2 children, or whatever the amount of children you have. You have boys, girls. You have to take that time and be the best possible parent you could possibly be. Because at the end of the day, a measure of a man, if you have children, is what a good father you are. So I know I went off on a little bit of a tangent about, being a dad, and, I went off on a little bit of a tangent. I don't know what would happen if I lost AJ in that pile, in that rubble. Felt really crazy, but that is those are feelings that can't be helped, because, you know, friendships are something that early on in life, you see friendships as people you hang out with, people you go to the bar with, people you play sports with, people you go to school with. But as you get older, men need to grow, and men need to kind of have friends, but kind of zero in on that friend that's going to be maybe be that guy that's you're going to bounce stuff off of. And I had that friend luckily when I went through my stuff about 2 years ago. But I don't know. Like I said, the kids are the main focus. If whether you're a mother, you're a father out there, that is the main focus. And I want to mention one little thing about that too, because it's a little thing. It's a little tiny little element of life where if your son comes to you and you're a dad and you have kids, and it doesn't even matter if you never played baseball, never ever miss the opportunity to have a catch with your son. Doesn't matter how tired you work, doesn't matter how many hours you work. If your son says to you, Dad, you want to go outside and have a catch? Never ever say no to that. Never ever be too tired, or never ever be too wrapped up in something else where you can't go outside for 20 minutes, because some of the best conversations in life and some of the best thing happen in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour having a catch with your son. Some of the best conversations happen in that moment. Now, there's a couple other things I'd like to talk about, because I keep calling this the Mostly Sports Talk Show. Now, I have a couple of things written down here that I don't know, maybe I'll get to, maybe I won't. I'm already talking about 33 minutes, and I've kind of went on a tangent about, I talked about tragedy, I talked about friendship, I talked about death a little bit. But I want to talk about something that comes around every so often. It usually comes around April. And this is going to kind of be the sports intermingling with the show is Little League. Little League's coming up. Now my kids have aged out of Little League, and I still drive by the field. I see Fishkill Little League, and I see the kids out there, and it just brings me back to a place of when I coached my kids when they were younger. I coached them playing baseball, and all the camaraderie that we had, the friendships that we made. My 2 boys learned how to become part of a team. They've won, they've lost, they've thrown second place trophies in the garbage because listen, guys, if you have boys, you got to teach them that there's only one winner and one loser. And if you're the loser, that just means you have to work harder. Or if you're somebody that maybe you lost because you just don't want to do it, just find something else. But life is filled with winners and losers. And I know that sounds like a weird analogy when you call somebody a loser, but Life is filled with them, and you have to be a winner, and you have to teach your kids to be a winner. Now, Little League teaches that, like I said, whether it be Pee Wee football, whether it be karate, whether it be chess, whatever your children might be into, whatever sport, whatever activity, it teaches them lessons that are to be listened to and to be remembered for ages to come. Teaches them to be part of a team. It teaches them to how to deal with stress. It teaches them how to deal with an authoritative figure. It deals with different types of people, and that sets you up for what you're going to do in life. Now, Aiden played baseball up till he was 18, and he made a conscious decision to say, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to be a college student. It's very hard to be a college athlete and student at the same time. And he also knew that he wasn't probably going to be playing shortstop for the New York Mets. But he did make an adult decision and say he's going to take school a lot more seriously. Went and got his business administration degree from DCC. And we're thinking he's going to be transferring to Marist next year to get his sports management degree or maybe a finance degree. He's going to talk to his, counselor, I guess they say about that. But super proud of him through his life. He's a great kid and he's got a lot of ideas. That's another thing too. When your kids come to you and they start talking to you, they have a million ideas, or they have a million conversations, or they have a million things they want to tell you. Never ever be too busy to listen to your kids. Because I don't care if my son has a million ideas, I will listen. Because you know what, though? Having a million ideas that sound crazy is a lot better than having a million ideas or not having any ideas at all. Because that one idea is going to hit. So to you, Aiden, keep having those ideas, keep having those dreams, keep working hard to your goal of what you want to do because it's going to come. I love you with all my heart, and I'm behind you, and I'm in your corner, and I'm your number one fan. And to my next guy, I'm going to gloat a little bit about right now. My son Jack is actually, see him, he's like right in the background there. That's him right there. Can't see Aiden, but that's Jack right there with his glove and his ball at City Field long time ago. And Jack played baseball. Jack played Little League. He made all-star teams. Jack was that young kid that you pick up a ball, you kick a ball. He's an athlete. And he just picked it up and he just knew how to play. He knew how to play baseball. He knew how to play football. But watching it, didn't really like watching it, but he was good at it. Fast forward, Jackson High School. And I'm starting to see me. I'm starting to see, wanting to hang out more than actually being in school. Would rather, he was going down a path that I, for lack of a better term, went down. And that path led me to here, yes, but I knew how to deal with that path. And that path was filled with a lot of potholes, a lot of stop signs, and a lot of tough roads. My job as a dad is to make that road for my children tough, but able to figure out the tough part of it. Now, Jack, my baseball player, like I said, played baseball, gets to high school, goes to John Jay High School. I'll say it, John Jay High School. Get himself in a little bit of trouble. I won't go into go into the specifics, but we decided to take Jack out of John Jay High School. We decided to send Jack over to Orchard View. Now, Orchard View is a school, if anybody knows in the area, satellite school, kind of an offshoot school from John Jay and Ketchum. We thought that this school, or the whole stigma on this school, was this is where all the bad kids go. This is where all the kids that need extra help go. This is where the kids this is where the kids that. Jack agreed to give us a couple of weeks there. Junior year, Jack is, for lack of a better term, not going to class too often, not going he's showing less interest in sports. He joined the football team. Like, if he maybe if he exerted a little more effort, maybe he would have been a good, better football player. But that's not the point I'm making here. The point that I am making here is an incident happened which forced our family, me personally, my wife and my kids, forced to make a decision. Jack says, Dad, I don't want to go back to John Jay. Mom, I don't want to go back to John Jay. I'm going to stay at Orchard View. I'm going to stay here because this is the place for me. Orchard View, I can't say enough great things about that program. Orchard View program took my son from failing to being one of the number one kids in his class. He's a mentor. He it's a different way of learning. Okay. They actually take consideration to different ways of learning. They look at you, your son, they say, okay, you're in a classroom with 30 kids. You're not going to learn this way. You're going to learn it a different way. So my son took to that. So now he's in Orchard View. This is his junior year. So when you're 16 years old, you're still figuring life out. You know, he did figure out at 16 that he was done with about 6 years of teenage angst in 6 months and said that he wants no part of it. This is what he wants to do. Decides that, hey, I might want to cook. I want to be a chef. We'll see. So, say, why not? So we talked to the nice women at Orchard View, the principal at Orchard View, and say, they have a culinary program in Duchess Bosse's. What's the chances that my son Jack would be able to get into the program? Because he's kind of shown an interest in cooking, and that sounds like something he might want to do. She said, "Well, we'll see, because Orchard View schools, they don't really have too much of a good relationship with the Duchess Bosse's program. I guess in the past, maybe, they have sent some kids there and maybe was a disruption or something, or maybe they just didn't cut it, or I don't know. But all I know is Jack started working really hard, and Jack was accepted to the Duchess Bosse's Culinary Arts program, which is a setup kind of think about a trade school. Think about if you want to be an iron worker like me, it's a trade. Think if you want to be a carpenter, an electrician, a plumber, culinary arts is a trade. So my son Jack gets accepted to the culinary arts program with help from his principals and teachers at Orchard View. Says, this is what I want to do. Goes to Duchess Bosse's, meets up with Chef Amanda. Now, Chef Amanda is I'm not too religious. I would call her a saint, a savior. But all I know is Chef Amanda saw something in my son Jack that a light sparked. He just took to it. He began learning techniques. He began learning the history. He learned cooking at home, making his own pizza, making his own dough, passing all his classes, being top in his class at Orchard View, being top in his class at the culinary arts. Now we find out about a school which everybody knows, the Culinary Institute of America. Now, we didn't even think that Jack was going to get into the Duchess Bosse's program for culinary. We didn't even think Jack was going to get in high school. School was not for him, but he did it. He went through the program. Now he puts in his application for the Culinary Institute of America, which is at 17, 18 now, a goal. His goal was to go to the number one culinary school in the United States of America. And with the help from Chef Amanda, with the help from everybody at Orchard View, with the help from us being supportive parents, us believing in him, us loving him, he got accepted to the Culinary Institute of America. I'm wearing the shirt right now, and I'm a proud parent. Now, I didn't think I barely got out of high school when I was younger. I got myself in a little bit of trouble, stuff, you know, just stuff. He fast forwarded and skipped all that stuff. And he is now, as of last week, me and my wife, the Culinary Institute of America for a college acceptance day. Now, I didn't go to college. My wife didn't go to college. I don't know what college acceptance day is. Well, it's the day that Culinary Institute of America, said, Jack Murphy, here you go. So, as of September of this year, my son Jack is going to be attending the Culinary Institute of America. And as a dad, I could not be more proud. I know he's going to be great. And I know whatever he does for the rest of his life, he is going to have focus because he had to learn a lot at a young age. And what he did learn is he does not want to go back to that mindset of whatever. He's driven and he wants to become a Michelin star chef. So, Jack Murphy, starting in September, the road to becoming a Michelin chef is starting. I'm so proud of you, dude. And when you get that Michelin star rating, me and your mother are going to be right there behind you. We love you and we're so proud of you. And we are going to miss you when you go to school in September. But it's all good. Don't be surprised if me and mommy aren't up there every Friday night having dinner because we miss you so much. But Jack, we're super proud of you, dude. And at the end of the day, you look at that, and that's what happens when parents put their souls into parenting, because there's nothing more important in the world than being a father to me. Somebody asked me recently, somebody really close to me, we were talking about people. He was actually telling me a conversation about somebody that's around our age. You know, he lived his life, but he never had any kids. He never got married. But he goes on all these excursions. He goes on all these trips, and he's just constantly busy. So this person had said to me, he says, you know what? I often wonder sometimes, like, what it would be like if I never had kids, or if I, never got married and I was just able to, like, live the life that this guy lives, just doing whatever I wanted. And I could not imagine my life without my children. I feel that if I did live that life where I could just had no kids, where I could just go wherever I want, do whatever I want, I don't feel like I would be fulfilled, because the fulfillment of life comes through watching joy in your children's eyes. I feel that if, well, that life, I don't know, some people might think it's fun. I don't know, but I don't think you could actually feel true, true love and true accomplishment when you look at your two children and your two children tell you that they love you and that they're so happy that you're their parents and they would never been able to do this without you. There's nothing like that. True fulfillment for me came with these two guys calling me dad and me putting everything aside to make sure that I raised two men and they know that I will always be there for them, as is my wife. So, the Mostly Sports Talk Show, huh? That's what this is going to be. So, today, mostly getting not sports. Talked about my son Jack, talked about my son Aiden, talked about my home life, and I talked about a lot of stuff that is going to set up these future podcasts. Going to have a lot more stuff written down. I'm going to have a lot more structured format, but I figured this is just something for me to come out here and let you know that what this is going to be about. Keep talking 365 is what I do. I keep talking all the time. The Mostly Sports Talk Show is going to be my podcast. That's going to be the name. It's going to be Mostly Sports, and it's going to be on Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. I'm going to get that continuity going. I'm going to be a star one day, but it takes practice. Practice, and time. Right now, the time that you have to put in, I can't do, because I'm still out there plugging away, still building New York City as an iron worker. But you know what? This time next year, hopefully I'll be thinking about retirement, because being a union iron worker for as many years as I have, being a fifth generation iron worker, being a proud fifth generation iron worker, my Uncle Michael, my grandfather, my great grandfather, my uncles, all proud union local 580 iron workers. I'm going to be the last in my family. 5 generations of union iron workers, very proud union iron workers. My children don't want to do it. I don't want my kids working this hard if they don't have to. But I can tell you one thing, Uncle Michael, this is direct to you. I am forever indebted to you. You saved my life in more ways than you know. So I want to thank you for that. And all the iron workers before that, all our family members, but Uncle Michael, I want to thank you specifically for giving me purpose, giving me a career, and giving me something that I can be proud of. And that's being an iron worker. So I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent now, because, that's kind of like what I do. But I'm Going to leave you guys with one more thing. That one thing is, doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you think that you have to call somebody to say hello, or if you think that you need to mend a relationship because of something silly, or if you think that somebody called you up and called you all sorts of names because you voted for somebody that you didn't vote for, call that person up, talk to that person, write them a letter. Stop the bullshit. America is so divided right now because of the fact of people that we put into office. Politics sucks. Keep politics out of families, keep politics out of friendships, and definitely keep politics out of your everyday life if it's going to cause any kind of issues, because it's not worth it. So this is my show. This is Keep Talking 365 is my channel. The Mostly Sports Talk Show is going to be the name of the show. E-dubs, I want to wish you good luck in whatever you do in your life. I want to offer you good luck because you've kind of ghosted me and you don't text me back and you don't call me, but I'm just saying. But maybe it was something I said. But E-dubs, I wish you luck. And the Murphy and E-dubs show is no more. So you're going to get the Mostly Sports Talk Show on Keep Talking 365 at YouTube. And guys, there's going to be a lot more shows to come, a lot more structured shows, and a lot of information coming your way because baseball season is here. I'm a Mets fan, and Juan Soto is going to have a better year than Aaron Judge. Mark my words. So come check out Keep Talking 365 at YouTube. I also have a TikTok page, which is Let's Talk 1972. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. So Sundays, 8 a.m., the Mostly Sports Talk Show. All right, guys, take care and thanks for listening.